How's it going, everyone? This is Brian, and welcome back to the Tech Stack Playbook, your guide to apps, software, and tech, but in a fun way, I promise. Now, we are kicking off day 3 at AWS reInvent, and there are a ton of announcements, a lot of really cool updates to the serverless ecosystem with AWS, and I wanted to share some of that stuff with you. Specifically, I wanted to go through yesterday's keynote speech with AWS CEO Adam Selipsky. So yesterday there were a lot of announcements, and I wanted to actually go through some of the specific key ones from AWS CEO Adam Selipsky's keynote. He gave a lot of updates about what the modern data economy or the modern data governance strategy looks like, and I wanted to kind of walk through that because a lot of times when you think about modern data strategy, people always ask, like, what does that actually look like? Or at an enterprise level or something that's scalable, what are the key facets that you need to have in your system to make sure that it's optimized, that it's efficient, that it's highly scalable, and that it's responsive and reliable as well, and resilient depending on availability for your services. So I wanted to go through a few of those specific updates from his keynote speech. Hopefully that'll be helpful for you all. Adam was going through what the modern data strategy looks like, and it was a really good quote. He said, "Data is dynamic and goes on a journey, and you need the right tools along the way." So he went through some critical components of what this type of data strategy looks like. And first of all, database. So first of all, number one, you need a database to store and process the data that's powering any sort of application, whether it's serverless, on-prem, legacy, you need a database. Then entering data lakes, that's part number 2. That's being able to unite multiple data sources together for what ends up becoming the third component, which is analytics. So it was just really interesting because when you think about data lakes, it's a very new way of thinking about how you can unite data and bring it all together. So just thinking about different places that data can be sourced from, data lakes are great for being able to bring that all together. So part 3 is analytics. So analytics are important because that allows you to develop trends and key insights that can help you understand your user base or really any sort of trend that you want to be tracking. It could be, likes or impressions or how people use your application or the visibility of certain features and their uses. So analytics is key for understanding how your software is working. So for part 4, he brought up machine learning. And machine learning is really powerful because that allows you to get predictive about data. So of course you have the data in the database, but then what's going to be happening in the future? So being able to make models and being able to create graphs and track certain things over time and then make estimates of what those data models are going to do based upon the data that you already have. So those are the 4 key components of this data strategy. And then in terms of a wrap around this, so the wrapping layer is governance. And that's specifically, and what Adam says is, to make this work, you need the right security in place to put all of the data in the hands of people at different levels, but based upon certain levels of access. So you don't generally want to have all of your data access to everyone, right? Because that would be crazy. So being able to specifically provision resources and data to the people that it's most applicable to is key. And one of the so I just thought that was really interesting. And of course, there were a couple announcements related to this. So specifically, one of the announcements was on row and cell level security for lake formation for data lakes. And then another one was with transactions for governed tables in lake formation. So there's a lot of tooling that's being built at AWS right now around data lakes. So really exciting to see that that's a new modern way of managing data from different sources. Specifically, something that I thought was really cool was Amazon Private 5G. So being able to create your own personal private 5G network. I thought that that was insanely cool. And just if you think about it, right, like you'd be able to have your own network. It could be like Tech Stack Playbook network or something like that. So you could have your own network, and basically what AWS will do is they'll send you the hardware and the software to ship it. So they'll send you the SIM cards, you plop those into your devices, and then boom, you're on your own personal private network. So I thought that that was a really cool announcement yesterday. So definitely worth checking out if you're into 5G networks and intranets. And something also that I thought was really cool was Amazon SageMaker Canvas. This is a sort of low-code, no-code solution for building machine learning. And I think that this is going to be really helpful for people because AWS has a very powerful service called SageMaker. But now being able to make this more accessible and applicable to people that maybe aren't, as coder intensive on the machine learning side or the AI, being able to create now low-code solutions for the machine learning and prediction. So I think that's really cool and also sort of shows the power of serverless. And AWS announced a lot of really big announcements related to serverless. So there's, around serverless Redshift, serverless EMR, MSK, serverless Kinesis data streams. So a lot of really great tooling around managing your data and provisioning that for the users, and also resources for those users and for the people that are, part of your software. So a lot of very, very cool updates, and I'm really excited to hear if any of you are building with these types of tools or any of these types of solutions. So definitely worth checking out, the solutions that I mentioned, and also if you Google announcements from AWS reInvent, more will come up, so you'll be able to read more and maybe dive in and see if you want to try out any of these solutions. They seem very, very cool, and the teams are, just people that I've talked to, really passionate about a lot of the builds. So there's lots of stuff to build and develop with these tools. Another of the workshops that I attended, was technically a breakout session, but they're all sort of workshops about building skills. And something that was really, really powerful was David Yanisek's session on how to build operational excellence, specifically at Amazon, but how that could be applicable to your company. I thought this was a very powerful breakout session because he goes through all of and he sort of, obviously there's way more stories to share, but specifically around how these 5 stories that he dives into, how they've powered how he thinks about agile DevOps and developer teams. And this is something I'm definitely going to be bringing to a lot of the work that I do, just because I think these are really powerful strategies. So I wanted to share some of them with you. So the first one is the ops email, and it's specifically around wins or strategies. And I thought this was really powerful because when you have people that are sharing really big things that they're doing, or really small things that they're doing, but they made a difference, they solved a bug, they created a feature that did something, or they solved some sort of big problem that no one was able to solve. Being able to create a system or a culture where you're able to share those ops wins emails to your team. He gave the story of how the AWS team had built, or one of the developers had built a solution and then was able to share it. But then that triggered a lot of other people to then share their wins and also build on top of the profiler that they had built already. So that was very interesting to see that you can create a feature, whether it's big or small, but then by sharing that and making it visible, it can then encourage other people to share those wins, whether they're big or small as well. So I thought that was very cool. And he talks about operational excellence as a culture within a team. So it's something that's fostered. It's a muscle that you have to flex. So there's a lot of building that needs to take place in structure, but then it can be very powerful in the effects of that. So I thought that was very powerful. So the second one was on the retrospective. So thinking of basically problems or incidents or things that came up that were not great, not necessarily thinking of them as incidents, but thinking of them as opportunities for performance in the future. So AWS has, and I'm reading this off, but it's a COE, it's a correction of error. So it has a title, it has a summary, it has metrics and graphs, it has a customer impact, and then the lessons learned and the actions. So I thought that this was very interesting because instead of you thinking of, our team made this mistake or I made this huge blunder, you sort of think of it of, okay, this occurred, but how can we make it not happen in the future? So that was really interesting to have this COE where you are making, especially onboarding developers onto your teams, being able to then have a way where they can see these COEs and then be onboarded onto the platform really easily or the solution really easily and not have to lose any pace. So I think that was very powerful. Also, just in terms of, so this was number 3, in terms of ops meetings, how that could actually work. So David was talking about just different types of meetings. So specifically having just a weekly ops meeting, the agenda is what to do per your team. And you talk about wins, your retrospective, and also looking at dashboards and metrics. But then there might also be a second meeting, which is weekly developer teams. So that's more of sharing perspectives across teams working together. And that's also talking about wins, retrospectives, and looking at dashboards and just interesting perspectives with different services that you're building on. But overall, just being able to bring visibility and accountability across what people are working on. And also number 4, just thinking of the investment in agility. A lot of people think about, how fast can you build and, how fast can we turn this around if there's bugs or something like that. So it was just interesting because he talked about how there's ripple effects when you build agility into your strategy, and when you invest in creating these structures and these processes can actually make you go way faster in the future. Because once you have a plan in place, it's much easier to replicate it than coming up with the spot as you go. So, a lot of these things can be time intensive, or resource intensive, depending on what you're doing. But being able to have a process in place, especially having that upfront investment from the get, is really important. So I thought that was a powerful takeaway. And then in terms of also just the architectural choice, whether it's, server full, and he used some examples of OS patching or scaling, or serverless, such as AWS Lambda, building pillars and controlling mechanisms can be something that you can actually build on top of tooling. So I thought that was really interesting, because there was the example where they wanted to automate something, and of course SageMaker is a serverless tool for running performant code from anytime that you call it or make it run at any time. So it was just interesting that they used a Lambda function to then build on top of another Lambda function. So sometimes you can build architecture on top of your architecture. And I thought that was a pretty powerful takeaway of, if you've built a lot of great tooling, why not reuse it or use it on top of other layers? So I thought that was a very interesting takeaway. But really just in overall, he said it comes back to your culture of the weekly ops meetings. It's creating this self-sustaining culture of people working together and just having the cultural ripple effects. So encouraging people to be motivated and inspired and working together. And that's something, again, when you think of workplace culture or team culture, that's something that's really important to foster as a muscle. And just in terms of having retrospectives and being proactive, these are ways to get ahead of problems before they become problems. And then also in terms of operations as an investment, of course, with continuous delivery, automation of best practices, and architecting for operations, these are things that you want to be thinking about, but having that upfront investment on your team can be very powerful, so that you are setting your teams and your company up for success no matter what happens today, tomorrow, next week, next month, in the future, next year. You'll be able to be prepared. And I thought that was, again, it's a really powerful workshop. So hopefully that gives you some insights there. So also, some of the workshops were actually really fun. So one of them, which I showed on my last video, was an image processing workshop. So today I was able to work on a theme park application using serverless. So it was very, very, very cool, because I got to use a lot of tools that I haven't actually used very frequently before. So I'm gonna pull up some notes from that just so that I can walk you all through it. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be showing sort of an overview or maybe a screen share of what it actually looks like. But specifically, the two tools that it was using, or the frameworks it was using, was SAM and Amplify. So Serverless Application Manager, that's basically helping you more easily deploy serverless tooling and technologies for your application. It's helpful for scaling. And it's just easier for deployment in general. And then also in terms of Amplify, more as a overarching organizational framework for your application. So you'd sort of build this Amplify application, but then SAM would be helping to build an optimized serverless on top of that. So I thought that was really powerful in terms of seeing how you could build tools on top of itself, and then that's how you can build an architecture map. So I'll definitely share a screenshot of that, and hopefully this will be very cool for you all to see. I thought it was kind of fun. So you'll see on the application, I sort of have some pop-ups. So it's basically pulling JSON data from an API. So I built this public API, and then that's where it's able to track all of those items on top of the theme park. And it actually didn't come up in the first time, so you have to actually build that out. So you'll see sort of in the beginning, there's sort of this, it looks like a map, but there isn't anything on it. So then once you create this public API endpoint with SAM, then you're able to then build on top of that. And then you're able to then call in data. So you have these pop-ups, you have these map points of interest and these items specifically for the theme park. So yeah, hopefully this is interesting for you all, and you can see sort of what an application could look like. And this can be powered completely serverlessly, mobile enabled, desktop enabled, anything that you're looking to have on a device, you'd be able to build an application like this. So this was super fun to build, and I really enjoyed the workshop. The AWS serverless team does a lot of really great content. So it's very cool to see how you can work with databases, with serverless compute, with the Amplify framework, with a lot of different tooling to then build very complex applications that work from any device completely serverlessly in the cloud. So yeah, it was really cool. All right, so that wraps up day 3 of AWS reInvent. I hope you had a great time listening to all these updates. Hope that maybe you'll look into some of these tools and some of these technologies, and maybe you can let me know if you're interested in seeing some other things. I'm specifically tomorrow going to be going through the databases that people are choosing and sort of some of those more optimized operations. So I did get a request for some more videos specifically on databases and how you're managing access to data. So I'm really excited, and thank you again for all the feedback, everyone. Like, I got that request actually quite a lot. So people wanted to really know more about how to use data in the cloud. So this is why, like, it's awesome to build a community, because then you can get feedback and then you can also provide that value back to your community. So hopefully this is bringing value to you all, and hope that you're enjoying some of these like very quick videos on AWS, reInvent, and yeah, even if you're at home, you can watch virtually. There's a lot of keynotes that are happening throughout the week. So definitely take advantage of all of these resources and all these opportunities. It's like tech is one of the best industries to be in, because everything is mostly like you're able to access it remotely or get access to a lot of things remotely. So really grateful that we live in an industry where you can do that and you can have that as, you know, a framework for learning. So yeah, I just really enjoyed sharing all these updates with you, and hope you're enjoying the videos. And of course, as always, if you have any feedback or you want to learn more about something and you want me to explore something, I'm more than happy to dive in and make a video tomorrow as well and share that. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in to the Tech Stack Playbook, and I will see you all next time. Thanks everyone. Bye.